in the dead of winter. As the American Revolutionary struggle reached its most desperate hour, General George Washington orchestrated a bold and risky move that would become a defining moment of the war. The Battle of Trenton, fought on December 25-26, 1776, stands as a crucial turning point in the fight for American independence. How did Washington's audacious plan defy the odds and reshape the fate of the Continental Army? How did this high-stakes gamble transform the American struggle for independence? Join us as we unravel every detail of this pivotal battle, from the daring strategy to the dramatic aftermath. Discover how this strategic gamble turned the tide of history and ignited a renewed spirit in the American quest for freedom. By late 1776, the American Revolutionary War was teetering on the brink of disaster for the Continental Army. General George Washington faced a dire situation. After a series of crushing defeats, including the significant loss of New York City and a disheartening retreat across New Jersey, the Continental forces were demoralized and in disarray. The army had been persistently pushed back by British and Hessian forces, which had resulted in the loss of strategic positions and a steady decline in morale. Washington's troops were not only exhausted from nearly 6 months of continuous combat and harsh winter conditions, but also grappling with severe shortages of supplies and dwindling enlistments. As many soldiers' enlistments were coming to an end, there was widespread concern about their ability to sustain an effective fighting force. The harsh realities of war, compounded by freezing weather and inadequate provisions, had left the Army's spirit broken, and the prospect of a prolonged struggle seemed increasingly grim. This situation created a pressing need for a dramatic shift in fortunes, making Washington's task of revitalizing the Army and reigniting the revolutionary cause more urgent than ever. In a desperate bid to turn the tide of the war, General George Washington conceived a bold and audacious plan. Recognizing that the Continental Army needed a decisive victory to bolster morale and reinvigorate the revolutionary cause, Washington set his sights on a strategic target: the Hessian forces stationed in Trenton, New Jersey. These Hessians, German mercenaries hired by the British, had established a garrison in Trenton as part of the British effort to maintain control over the region. Washington's strategy hinged on exploiting the vulnerabilities of the Hessian position. With the Christmas holiday approaching, he anticipated that the Hessians would be less vigilant and their defenses weakened by the festivities and the harsh winter conditions. The plan was to launch a surprise attack on the morning of December 26, catching the Hessians off guard while they were likely celebrating and unprepared for immediate combat. Washington's choice of timing was deliberately designed to maximize the chances of a successful assault, aiming to strike at a moment when the enemy's guard was down and the element of surprise could be fully leveraged. This daring maneuver, fraught with risk, was intended not only to seize a critical victory, but also to reignite the hope and determination of his beleaguered troops. On the evening of December 25, 1776, General George Washington set in motion a carefully orchestrated plan to turn the tide of the Revolutionary War. The operation, aimed at surprising the Hessian garrison in Trenton, required meticulous preparation and precision. Washington's force, comprising approximately 2,400 soldiers, faced a formidable challenge: crossing the treacherous and ice-laden Delaware River under the cover of darkness. The river, swollen from winter ice and snow, presented a significant obstacle, demanding careful coordination and timing to ensure a successful crossing. Washington's troops, exhausted and underfed from a grueling campaign, were tasked with navigating the icy waters in a fleet of Durham boats. Each boat had to be carefully loaded with men, ammunition, and supplies while contending with the harsh winter elements. The river's icy currents and floating ice chunks added to the peril, making the crossing not only a logistical challenge but a test of endurance and resolve. The night was further complicated by severe weather conditions, including a fierce snowstorm that added to the difficulty of the operation. Despite these daunting conditions, Washington's leadership and the determination of his men were crucial in overcoming these challenges, setting the stage for the decisive assault planned for the following morning. As the Continental Army undertook the crossing of the Delaware River, they faced an array of severe challenges. The river was choked with drifting ice, which posed a critical hazard to navigation. threatening to impede or even destroy the small fleet of Durham boats used for the crossing. This floating ice, coupled with the treacherous conditions, made the waterway a perilous barrier. The weather compounded these difficulties significantly. Temperatures plunged well below freezing, turning every surface into a potential hazard. Snow fell intermittently, adding to the overall misery and increasing the risk of frostbite and hypothermia among the soldiers. The men, already weary and suffering from inadequate supplies, had to navigate the icy river while enduring the biting cold and snow. Each step was a test of endurance and determination, as the soldiers battled both the elements and their own fatigue to ensure the success of the mission. This harsh environment underscored the magnitude of the challenge Washington's troops faced as they struggled against nature itself in their bid to achieve a pivotal victory. The crossing of the Delaware River began around 6 p.m. on December 25, 1776, under the command of General George Washington. This perilous operation involved Washington's troops, divided into several groups to tackle the logistical hurdles posed by the icy waters and harsh winter conditions. They used Durham boats, which were flat-bottomed and designed to navigate shallow and ice-filled rivers. These boats were ideally suited for the task, but still faced significant challenges due to the floating ice that obstructed their path. The frigid temperatures and biting wind added to the difficulty, as ice formed along the riverbanks and on the surface, making navigation precarious. Washington's leadership was critical in managing this complex and risky maneuver. He coordinated the crossing with meticulous attention to detail, ensuring that each group was launched in a staggered fashion to prevent congestion and maximize efficiency. The severe weather conditions, including heavy snow and freezing rain, compounded the difficulties, causing some boats to become stuck or struggle to make headway. Despite these setbacks, Washington's resolve and his ability to inspire his men played a crucial role in maintaining the momentum of the operation. As the hours passed, the crossing took longer than anticipated due to the ice and weather, pushing the soldiers to their physical limits. The men worked tirelessly, braving the cold and the treacherous conditions to ensure that the plan stayed on course. Washington's determination to see the operation through despite the severe delays demonstrated his unwavering commitment to the mission. His leadership, combined with the soldiers' perseverance, was instrumental in overcoming the formidable obstacles presented by the icy Delaware, setting the stage for the critical march toward Trenton that would follow. At approximately 3 a.m. on December 26, 1776, the Continental Army had braved the perilous crossing of the icy Delaware River, an endeavor fraught with immense physical and environmental challenges. Yet, the completion of this initial phase was only the beginning of their arduous mission. The next critical step required them to undertake a grueling 9-mile march through a harsh winter landscape, further compounded by the treacherous conditions left in the wake of a recent snowfall and the biting cold that gripped the region. The soldiers, already exhausted from the punishing river crossing and grappling with severe fatigue, were now faced with the daunting task of navigating through snow-covered and slippery terrain. Their clothing and gear, damp from the river and stiff with frost, added to their discomfort and the harshness of their ordeal. Washington's leadership during this stage was pivotal. His presence provided a beacon of strength and resolve that inspired the weary troops to continue despite their physical and mental exhaustion. His leadership was not just a motivational force, but a practical necessity, as he carefully coordinated the march, ensuring that the men maintained formation and discipline in the face of overwhelming adversity. The urgency of the mission drove their relentless advance. The element of surprise was essential to their strategy, and they had to reach Trenton before the Hessian forces could react and fortify their defenses. Washington's ability to instill a sense of purpose and urgency among his troops, despite the severe conditions, underscored the remarkable endurance and commitment of the Continental Army. This challenging march through the dead of night, with temperatures plummeting and the path growing ever more treacherous, was not merely a test of their physical stamina, but also a profound demonstration of their dedication to the cause of independence. It set the stage for the critical confrontation that was to follow, marking the beginning of a turning point in the American Revolutionary War. At approximately 8 a.m. on December 26, 1776, The weary but resolute Continental Army, having braved the perils of a freezing river and a grueling march, reached the outskirts of Trenton. The key to their success lay in Washington's meticulous plan to strike with surprise, and it was brilliantly executed. The Hessian troops, who had indulged in Christmas festivities the night before, were caught in a state of disarray. Many Hessians were still asleep in their quarters, and those who were awake were sluggish and disorganized, grappling with the after-effects of both the holiday and the severe weather. The unexpected early morning attack found them scrambling to form a coherent defense. The biting cold and snow compounded their difficulties, making it even harder for them to mobilize and counter the sudden assault. Washington's troops, hardened by their ordeal and driven by the urgency of their mission, pushed forward with relentless determination. Their rapid and coordinated assault exploited the Hessians' vulnerability, disrupting their defensive formations and overwhelming them before they could mount a proper resistance. This decisive moment highlighted the effectiveness of Washington's strategic gamble, as the Hessians' lack of readiness and the harsh winter conditions left them ill-prepared to fend off the determined American forces. As dawn broke on December 26, 1776, the Battle of Trenton commenced with an intense and surprising cannonade that jolted the Hessians from their post-holiday stupor. The sudden and unexpected bombardment shattered the relative calm of the town and immediately threw the Hessian defenders into confusion. Washington's meticulously planned assault began with his troops rapidly securing strategic positions around the town, capitalizing on their superior knowledge of the local terrain and the cover provided by Trenton's buildings. The Continental Army, numbering approximately 2,400 soldiers, moved with remarkable efficiency and coordination despite the harsh winter conditions, utilizing the structures and natural features of the landscape. The Americans advanced in a methodical fashion, ensuring they maintained the element of surprise. Their approach was aggressive and precise, targeting key points and creating a formidable presence. The Hessian defenses, manned by around 1,000 men, were quickly overwhelmed. The defenders, still reeling from the disorienting cannon fire and their disrupted routines, struggled to mount an effective counterattack. The American troops' disciplined advance and strategic positioning enabled them to outflank and pressure the Hessian positions, exploiting the gaps and weaknesses in their defense. The initial contact, characterized by the sudden and forceful cannonade, set the tone for a battle that was marked by the rapid and effective engagement of Washington's forces, which decisively tilted the momentum in favor of the Continental Army. Washington's troops executed a meticulously planned offensive that leveraged both strategic foresight and tactical flexibility to devastating effect. Upon reaching Trenton, the Continental Army, organized into several smaller units, initiated a complex assault designed to overwhelm the Hessian forces from multiple angles simultaneously. Washington's strategy hinged on dividing his troops into specialized groups, each assigned to critical roles in surrounding and attacking the Hessian defenses. This division allowed for a multi-pronged attack, creating a chaotic battlefield environment for the enemy. The Americans executed their plan with remarkable precision and coordination. The northern and southern units advanced rapidly, taking advantage of the morning fog and the cover provided by the town's buildings and streets. Meanwhile, another group approached from the west, aiming to cut off any potential escape routes and isolate the Hessians further. This methodical approach was designed to maximize the element of surprise and prevent the Hessians from regrouping or mounting an effective counteroffensive. The Hessian defenders, having been abruptly awakened and disoriented by the pre-dawn cannonade, struggled to adapt to the sudden and relentless assault. Their defenses, initially arranged for a more conventional threat, proved inadequate against the multi-directional pressure from the Americans. The Hessians found their positions quickly compromised as American troops infiltrated key areas, including their artillery positions and supply depots. The chaotic situation was exacerbated by the Hessians' lack of readiness and their disrupted holiday routines, which had left many of their men in a state of disarray. The unexpectedness of the American attack, combined with their aggressive tactics, prevented the Hessians from establishing a coherent defense or coordinating a counterattack. This overwhelming and sustained pressure effectively dismantled the Hessian defenses, allowing Washington's forces to gain control of the battlefield and secure a pivotal victory. The Americans' adept use of surprise, combined with their strategic and tactical acumen, underscored the effectiveness of Washington's planning and the critical importance of adaptability in warfare. The fighting in Trenton on the morning of December 26, 1776, was fierce yet remarkably swift, characterized by close-quarters combat that unfolded in the narrow, labyrinthine streets and alleys of the town. As the Americans pressed their attack, they encountered strong resistance from the Hessian defenders, who, despite their military training and experience, were disoriented and caught off guard. The streets, lined with homes and commercial buildings, became a chaotic battleground where every corner and doorway offered both cover and concealment. Washington's troops, leveraging their superior knowledge of the town's layout, navigated these tight spaces with agility, using the buildings and street layouts to outmaneuver and flank the Hessians. The Hessians, who had been abruptly woken and thrust into battle, struggled to adapt to the fast-paced and fragmented nature of the urban skirmish. Their usual discipline and organizational prowess were undermined by the suddenness of the American assault and their lack of preparedness for such an immediate confrontation. The Americans, driven by the element of surprise and a sense of urgency, advanced with a determined and relentless approach. They utilized the terrain effectively, using the buildings for cover and to stage their assaults from advantageous positions. In the confined spaces of Trenton's streets, the battle took on a grueling, almost hand-to-hand quality, with the Americans forcing their way through the town while the Hessians, despite their training, struggled to maintain cohesion and order. The Americans' aggressive and coordinated movements, combined with their familiarity with the local environment, allowed them to exploit the Hessians' disarray and secure a decisive edge. This intense urban combat, though brief, underscored the Americans' tactical ingenuity and the Hessians' vulnerability in the face of a well-executed surprise attack. A critical turning point in the Battle of Trenton emerged with the injury of Hessian Colonel Johann Rall, a moment that had profound implications for the course of the battle. As dawn broke and the battle unfolded, Rall, who had been crucial in leading the Hessian defense, was struck by a bullet and severely wounded. This injury was more than just a physical blow. It symbolized the collapse of the Hessian command structure in the midst of a chaotic engagement. Colonel Rall's incapacitation left the Hessian troops without clear, centralized leadership, exacerbating their already fragile state. The sudden loss of their commander, combined with the disorientation caused by the unexpected American assault, threw the Hessian forces into confusion. They were faced with a well-coordinated and aggressive American offensive that took full advantage of the surprise element and the harsh winter conditions. Washington's troops, having planned their attack meticulously, executed their movements with precision, using their knowledge of the local terrain to their advantage. They moved aggressively through the town, utilizing the cover of buildings and alleys to encircle and overwhelm the Hessian positions. The American soldiers, driven by a sense of urgency and the element of surprise, pressed forward relentlessly. The Hessians, struggling with the loss of their commander and unable to regroup effectively, found themselves increasingly isolated and demoralized. This loss of leadership, combined with the relentless American advance, led to significant Hessian casualties and surrenders. The initial shock of the cannonade and the subsequent disarray caused by the loss of Colonel Rall played a decisive role in tipping the balance of the battle in favor of Washington's forces, ensuring a pivotal and morale-boosting victory for the Continental Army. By around 9 a.m. on December 26, 1776, the Battle of Trenton had decisively tilted in favor of the Continental Army. The Hessian forces, now beleaguered and reeling from a series of relentless American assaults, faced an untenable situation. Their morale had been severely undermined by the unexpected ferocity of Washington's attack and the injury of their commander, Colonel Johann Rall. The sight of their leader wounded, combined with the intense pressure from Washington's troops, led to a rapid deterioration in their ability to resist. Recognizing the futility of further fighting and facing the prospect of complete annihilation, the Hessians opted for surrender. The American forces, having executed their plan with precision and aggression, managed to capture nearly 900 Hessians, a staggering number that significantly weakened the enemy's presence in the region. Along with the prisoners, the Americans secured a significant haul of valuable supplies and munitions, including cannons, muskets, and ammunition, which were crucial for the continuation of their campaign. The capture of these resources not only deprived the Hessians of their immediate combat capabilities, but also bolstered the Continental Army's logistical situation. The American casualties were remarkably light, with only a few wounded and 2 soldiers killed, highlighting the effectiveness of Washington's bold and well-coordinated strategy. This victory was achieved with minimal cost, a testament to the meticulous planning and execution of the operation. The success at Trenton was more than a tactical win. It was a moral-boosting triumph that reinvigorated the Continental Army and turned the tide of the Revolutionary War. The victory demonstrated the power of surprise, strategic boldness, and relentless determination, proving pivotal in shifting the momentum of the conflict in favor of the American forces. The immediate aftermath of the decisive victory at Trenton, Washington's army regrouped and assessed the significant gains from the battle. The capture of nearly 900 Hessian prisoners proved to be a momentous boost, not just in material terms, but in morale. The spoils included essential supplies such as weapons, ammunition, and provisions, which were critical for sustaining the Continental Army's operations in the harsh winter conditions. This newfound cache of resources alleviated some of the logistical strains that had plagued Washington's forces and enabled them to continue their campaign with renewed vigor. Beyond the tangible benefits, the victory at Trenton was a profound strategic triumph. It marked a dramatic shift in the fortunes of the American cause, reversing the string of defeats that had previously threatened to demoralize both the Army and the public. The success at Trenton invigorated American spirits and provided a much-needed infusion of confidence and legitimacy to the Continental Army. It demonstrated that the American forces, despite their previous struggles, could execute complex military operations with precision and achieve significant victories against well-trained and equipped opponents. This boost in morale and strategic positioning was crucial for rallying support and re-engaging the revolutionary fervor that had waned in recent months. The victory thus set a precedent for future operations and inspired both the soldiers and the civilian population, proving that the American cause was not only viable but capable of challenging and overcoming formidable adversaries. The victory at Trenton had transformative and far-reaching effects on the American Revolutionary War. Strategically, it was a decisive win that rejuvenated the struggling Continental Army and shifted the war's momentum. The immediate aftermath of the battle saw a dramatic increase in enlistments, as the American victory revived national spirit and bolstered the morale of both soldiers and civilians. This surge was crucial. It replenished the ranks of the Continental Army, which had been dwindling due to expiring enlistments and harsh winter conditions. The success at Trenton demonstrated to the American public and potential recruits that the Continental Army was capable of defeating the British forces, thus renewing hope in the revolution's viability. Furthermore, the victory at Trenton set the stage for the subsequent Battle of Princeton, which further cemented American control over New Jersey. Washington's strategic maneuvering and successful engagements not only dispelled doubts about American military capabilities, but also forced the British to reassess their strategy in the region. The triumph at Trenton was not just a tactical success. It was a crucial psychological victory that altered the course of the war. It showed that the Continental Army, under Washington's leadership, could execute complex operations and win against well-trained and experienced troops. This change in perception was instrumental in securing New Jersey for the Americans, disrupting British plans, and rallying more support for the revolutionary cause. The victories in Trenton and Princeton provided a much-needed boost to American morale and resources, laying the groundwork for future successes and helping to sustain the revolution through one of its darkest periods. The Battle of Trenton stands as a pivotal and celebrated episode in American history, emblematic of a turning point in the Revolutionary War. On December 26, 1776, General George Washington's audacious and high-risk strategy, crossing the icy Delaware River and launching a surprise attack against the Hessian forces, demonstrated his exceptional leadership and tactical acumen. This decisive victory was not just a critical military success, but also a powerful morale booster for the Continental Army and the American public. At a time when the revolutionary cause was faltering, with soldiers' enlistments dwindling and the cause of independence seemingly in jeopardy, Washington's bold gamble revived the spirits of his troops and reinvigorated the American effort. The triumph at Trenton transformed the war's narrative, shifting momentum away from the British and their allies and proving that the Continental Army could deliver a decisive blow. This victory also had profound strategic implications, setting the stage for subsequent successes and solidifying Washington's reputation as a commander capable of achieving remarkable feats under pressure. The Battle of Trenton thus symbolizes not only tactical ingenuity and perseverance, but also the broader struggle for independence, highlighting how daring decisions and resilient leadership can alter the course of history. The Battle of Trenton was a defining moment in the American Revolution, marking a crucial turnaround in the fortunes of the Continental Army at a time of profound crisis. Washington's audacious strategy, which involved a daring and arduous river crossing under brutal winter conditions, stands as a testament to his unyielding courage and strategic brilliance. The meticulously executed surprise attack on the Hessian forces, who were caught off guard and unprepared, not only secured a decisive victory, but also reignited hope and morale among the beleaguered American troops and their supporters. This pivotal battle underscored the effectiveness of Washington's leadership and the resilience of the Continental Army, proving that with bold planning and determination, even the most daunting challenges could be overcome. The triumph at Trenton was more than just a tactical success. It revitalized the revolutionary cause and set the stage for future victories, solidifying Washington's legacy as a masterful commander and inspiring countless others to join the struggle for independence. Thank you for joining us on this detailed exploration of the Battle of Trenton. If you found this video insightful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more in-depth historical content.